I think, our case, I'm not going to go and call, the Southern District and everyone racist, but I think our case definitely shows that white privilege is a real thing.
I couldn't help but notice, even though there in some cases you were more overt about it, but when I watched this game, it's hard not to notice who went to jail and who didn't, or who was sentenced and who didn't. It's so
or who
obvious.
got charged? Who even got charged?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And just so people understand that this scandal that Christian was the center of was billed as one of the worst college basketball scandals ever. And the beauty of the scheme is that when you kind of peel back the layers and get down to it, you're like, I've seen a lot worse. Like it really wasn't. It was, the root of it was, players getting paid. That there are people who have opinions about whether or not it should be paid or not. I'm of the opinion, take as much money as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's hard not to notice, as I said, that you had 10 people total. Was anybody white that actually got
so
sentenced?
they did charge Jim Gatto because they needed the shoe company thing to have the case at all. So yeah, they charged Jim. That was the only one.
All right, so you have a bunch of black men now who have to face having a felony on their record. That, like, technically, even though you're appealing, you're considered a convicted felon, correct?
That's a great question. I'm not totally sure.
You're not totally sure?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So bottom line, the optic is all the black dudes going to jail, all the white coaches still kept their job. What do you read into that situation, that it just seemed to be a particular target that ultimately paid for this quote unquote crime?
I think, our case, I'm not going to go and call, the Southern District and everyone racist, but I think our case definitely shows that white privilege is a real thing. And maybe racism in this particular case isn't so much direct, but maybe it's a subconscious thing, because again, like I touched on it a little bit in the documentary, but I didn't want to make this a race thing. I mentioned at the end, if all the players were white and the people making money were African American, this would be like a COVID level shutdown. Like nobody would be okay. It would be a major issue if black people are making billions off of white people and not paying them anything. So just stuff like that, whereas, or even, everybody always makes this negative connotation around grassroots basketball coaches and they're evil and they're the worst people in the world. But it's like they have found some kids and got them off the streets and got their grades right and traveled them and fed them and did everything else. And they're bad people, but the coaches in college basketball who are making $7 million and giving them nothing are great people. Like, it makes no sense when you really say the things out loud. So it's just the way that black men or black women are looked at or even perceived is already, you already starting off at a negative. You know what I mean? And then, white people just get benefit of the doubt times 10. Like, the case shows that, and no one can argue that. Marty Blazer stole $4 million. None of this happens if they just arrest Marty Blazer and call it a day. Like, it's over. No one gets charged. Just never even becomes a thing. The fact that you can steal $4 million and say, to the prosecutors or whomever, and convince them to not charge you, and you can basically start your own case and investigate college basketball payments. That doesn't even, like, a black man would never get that opportunity. Like, it just don't happen. It's just not even reality.
For those listening who haven't maybe seen this documentary, explain to them who Marty Blazer is, because ultimately he was the plug that wound up undoing kind of all of this.
Yeah, so Marty Blazer was a financial advisor who, for some reason, he wasn't super prominent, but he had some real players. And he wanted to start producing movies, basically. He took the players' money, and he also had like retirees and stuff like that. But he took $4 million from retirees and professional athletes, put it into the movies. When the movies sucked, basically, he stole more money from his clients. So when I believe someone who worked with him told on him, I'm pretty certain. And then the FBI and the SEC got involved. And when it was time to charge him, instead of them charging him, his lawyers made a deal, and he was able to, and this is not a joke, do like a one-man FBI supported investigation, where he, the announcement of his charges didn't happen. We didn't know that he did what he did. They let him come around us and basically build a basketball corruption case. And then at the end of the day, once he got all of us rounded up, and we, rightfully so, we shouldn't have been dealing with him. We can't not acknowledge that, because if we don't deal with him, none of it happens. So we did deal with him, and at the end of it, he was sentenced to, I think, like 2 months probation or 2 years, but it wasn't like he got no time period at the end of the day. So like, that's just an example of what I'm saying. Like, he was just given the benefit of the doubt over and over and over and over. And that's just something that, no black man gets. It's just not going to happen. As soon as we do anything, and I said it in a documentary, not knowing I'm being recorded, I told the FBI undercovers, some stuff just made me a little uncomfortable, because there's these black men who work their whole lives to get to this position. And if anything goes wrong, it's over. It's curtains, basically. So, we knew that to be a fact. And if there's anything that I do regret, it is me not following my first mind, like, this is some BS, because, if I just stop it, then it doesn't spread to where it got, you know what I mean? So, me being who I am, and me being smart enough to realize all the different scenarios at play, I should have pulled back, and that wouldn't have even, that would have stopped most of the dumb shit that it did occur. But even with that, it shouldn't have even got to that point if people in power would have just arrested the guy and not let him be out here doing what he did. So it is what it is.
Why do you think the FBI? Why did they want to do a college basketball corruption type of case? Like, why were they even interested in this? Do you have any theories on that?
I mean, I don't know definitively, but I do know that prosecutors want to become mayors and senators and governors and everything like that. And the reason why everyone knows Rudy Giuliani, outside of him being mayors, he indicted and he successfully prosecuted the mafia. Like, those things are sure, prosecutors want to fight crime and everything like that, but it's also a job that lends credibility to political ambition. So if you have a case with major names in the media, your name is going to be in the media as well. If you have a case where you can, you're sports related, that's going to be a little sexier than Wall Street scandals and stuff like that. So I would think, if you look at the documentary, they had a press conference. They had all these things like that drawed attention to it. This didn't have to be a national story. But it was, because that's how they wanted it to go. So in my opinion, I looked at it like, this is bigger than any of us. It's forces at play here that we don't really know about. And still to this day, we don't have any answers for why the case was taken to the level it got to. But I would think, it has to be, for clout purposes and just growing their brand as politicians or prosecutors or whatever the case may be. Because I mean, this is blue blood Ivy League. These prosecutors have been, a part of the system as on their side for years. Their family may be connected to it. So it's much deeper than what citizens, really know is going on.